Now today we will discuss how the diffusion of different substances and the water molecules occur across the capillary membrane. That means from inside the capillaries to the outside, or from outside of the capillaries to the inside. That means how diffusion occurs between the plasma and the interstitial fluid. This diffusion is mainly caused by the thermal motion of the water molecules, and there are two types of the diffusion process. One is for the substances which are lipid soluble. For example, oxygen molecules and the carbon dioxide molecules. These molecules pass directly through the cell membrane because they are lipid soluble, so they can be easily dissolved in the cell membrane of the endothelial cells, and so they can easily cross from uh, one side of the cells to the other side. And this diffusion occurs at a very rapid rate. The second type of molecules are the water soluble molecules and lipid insoluble molecules. For example, the water itself moves by this mechanism, and then there may be sodium molecules or the chloride molecules or the glucose or the urea, and these molecules actually pass through the pores we have already discussed, and these pores allow the movement of molecules from a higher concentration to a lower concentration in the form of bulk. So that's why it's called as the bulk flow. But this bulk flow varies greatly depending upon the different types of tissues, and different this diffusion also depends upon the size of the molecule. The greater the size of the molecule, greater will be the lesser will be the diffusion. Greater is the size of the molecule, lesser will be the diffusion. Then the concentration gradient across the cell membrane. That means if there is more concentration gradient, then there is more movement of these molecules. And the best example is the oxygen. This oxygen has got a higher concentration in the inside of the capillaries and a lesser concentration on the outside of the capillaries. So because of this concentration gradient, these oxygen molecules will pass from inside the capillaries to the interstitial space. And similar is the case for the carbon dioxide, which have got a more higher concentration on the interstitial side and lesser concentration on the intracapillary side. So carbon dioxide will move from the interstitial fluid into the plasma. The third is the pore size that is present in the endothelial cells. So greater, if there is greater or larger pore size, then the diffusion will be easy, whereas if the pore size is smaller, then the diffusion will be less than normal. Then is the temperature. That has nothing to do with this diffusion process, but if there is more temperature, then the diffusion will be more rapid. Then is the surface area. That means if there is more surface area of the capillary, then there will be more diffusion, and for less surface area, the diffusion will be less. So this is how the diffusion occurs. For the larger molecules, for example, the protein molecules, they move from one side, from the blood, for example, to the interstitial space by the process of pinocytosis. Now the bulk flow occurs from the capillaries via these junctions present between the cells, and that is driven by because of the blood pressure in the inside of the capillaries. And then this diffusion also occurs because of the concentration gradient. So if there is more concentration gradient on one side, then that substance will move to the other side. Now we will study what are the forces that are affecting this filtration. Number one is the capillary hydrostatic pressure. This capillary hydrostatic pressure is the pressure inside the capillaries because of the presence of fluid, And there are two methods for the determination of this capillary hydrostatic pressure. One is called as the micropipette method, in which a very small, actually microscopic pipettes are inserted into the capillaries, and they are connected then to a pressure measuring device, and then isogravimetric method. And by these methods, the pressure at the arteriolar end of the capillaries is about 30 millimeter of mercury, whereas at the venous end of the capillaries it is about 10 millimeter of mercury. The second force acting on the capillaries is the interstitial fluid hydrostatic pressure. This is the pressure that is present in the interstitial space because of the presence of fluid there. Again, this pressure is measured by the micropipette method, or by implanted perforated capsules, or by a cotton wick method. In the loose areolar tissues, for example, the tissues that are present underneath the eye or in the scrotal region, the pressure, interstitial pressure, is always negative. It is in the range of -3 millimeter of mercury. But if the organ is encapsulated, for example, the kidneys are encapsulated or the brain is encapsulated, then the pressure here will be in a positive direction. In the kidneys it is usually +6 millimeter of mercury, whereas in the brain it is about +4 millimeter of mercury. So in the loose areolar tissue it is in the negative direction, and in the capsulated organs it is always a positive pressure. Now, the negativity of pressure in the interstitial space is because of the active pumping of the fluid or the lymphatic fluid by the lymphatic system. We are going to study it in our next lecture. So this negativity of pressure in the interstitial space is caused by the active pumping of fluid by the lymphatic system. The third force acting over here is the plasma colloid osmotic pressure. That means because of the presence of proteins inside the capillaries, they will exert a pressure because they will favor the osmosis of fluid from the interstitial space into the capillary space. So this pressure normally is about 28 millimeter of mercury, and that will tend to prevent the movement of fluid from inside the capillaries into the interstitial space. Now out of this 28 millimeter of mercury, 19 millimeter of mercury pressure is caused by the proteins. So because in the plasma the protein albumin is in abundant proportion, so 80% of this pressure is caused only by the albumin, whereas the rest is caused by the other proteins, for example the fibrinogen and the globulins. Whereas the 9 millimeter of mercury pressure is caused by other ions that are present in the plasma. So out of this 28 millimeter, 19 millimeter is caused by the proteins and 9 millimeter is caused by the other ions. The fourth pressure is the interstitial fluid colloid osmotic pressure. That is the pressure that is caused by the presence of proteins in the interstitial space, and these proteins have somehow been filtered from the capillaries, and they will then exert this pressure and they will pull the fluid to the interstitial space. Smaller pore sizes restrict diffusion of proteins, but some of the proteins do leak through small pores, or that leakage is through transcytosis process. So its concentration in the interstitial fluid is 3 grams per deciliter. That is almost 40% of the total plasma proteins present normally in the body. So this pressure exerted is equal to 8 millimeter of mercury pressure. Now we will study what are the forces that are acting at the arteriolar end of the capillaries. So there are the same four forces, but first three forces are trying to push the fluid outward. Number one is the capillary hydrostatic pressure, that is 30 millimeter of mercury. Then the negative interstitial fluid pressure, that was the pressure in the interstitial space, and since it is in negative direction, so it will always be causing the fluid to come out of the capillaries into the interstitial space. The third pressure is the interstitial fluid colloid osmotic pressure, which is 8 millimeter of mercury. So the net forces that are trying to move fluid out of the capillaries into the interstitial space are 41 millimeter of mercury, whereas the forces that are moving the fluid inward is the only plasma colloid osmotic pressure, which is about 28 millimeter of mercury. So the net outward forces at the arteriolar end of the capillaries is 13 millimeter of mercury. That means this is the pressure that is trying to move the fluid out of the capillaries into the interstitial space. Now at the venous end of the capillaries, the only force that is tending to move fluid inward is the plasma colloid osmotic pressure, which is about 28 millimeter of mercury, whereas the other three forces that are tending to move fluid outward, that are, number one is the capillary pressure. So you see here at the venous end, the capillary pressure has decreased from 30 at the arteriolar end to 10 at the venous end. So this is the major difference that is trying to cause the absorption of fluid. So and the second force is the negative interstitial pressure, which is 3 millimeter of mercury, and it is again trying to move fluid outward. Then the third is the interstitial fluid colloid osmotic pressure, same as 8 millimeter at the venous end. So the net forces that are trying to move the fluid outward is 21 millimeter, and the net force that is tending to move fluid inward is 7 millimeter of mercury. So a small amount of fluid flows from the arteriolar end to the venous end. That means at the arterial end, fluid is filtered to the interstitial space, and at the venous end, the fluid is again reabsorbed back into the circulation. So that is why there is a continuous flow of fluid that is flowing in the interstitial space at the arterial end, and that is going to be absorbed at the venous end of the capillaries. Now at the arteriolar end, about 1/2000 of the plasma is filtered out each time it passes through the capillaries. So this force is less at the venous end than at the arteriolar end, as venous capillaries are more numerous and they are more porous, so less pressure is required for the absorption at the venous end. This absorption at the venous end accounts for about 90% of the filtered fluid. That means 90% of the filtered fluid is again reabsorbed back at the venous end, whereas the rest 10% then flows through the lymphatics and eventually it returns to the bloodstream. The important thing is that no active force or energy is involved in this process of filtration and reabsorption. Recently, a new theory is that filtration occurs when capillaries are open and absorption occurs when capillaries are closed. We have already learned about the vasomotion theory. That means the capillaries are open for a small period of time and then they are closed and new capillaries are open. So this new theory states that filtration occurs when the capillaries are open and then absorption occurs when the capillaries are closed, because then there is less pressure in the capillaries. So this is how the filtration will occur in the systemic capillaries. You can see here the pressure here is more and here it is less. So filtration will occur at this end and reabsorption will occur at the other end. Then is the Starling forces for the capillary exchange. Mean functional capillary pressure is the average pressure present in the entire length of the capillary. That means if you take the whole of the capillary in its entire length, then what will be the mean functional capillary pressure in this area? So here forces tending to move fluid outward is the mean capillary pressure, which here on an average is about 17.3 millimeter, whereas the negative interstitial pressure is again 3, and then interstitial colloid osmotic pressure is 8. So the total outward forces acting over here are 28.3 millimeter of mercury, whereas the plasma colloid osmotic pressure is 28. So net outward pressure, if we take the whole capillary, will be 0.3 millimeter of mercury. This is, you can see here, this is the capillary pressure 17.3 millimeter, and then since it is a negative pressure, interstitial fluid pressure is a negative here, so that is in fact not causing the fluid to move into the capillaries, but instead it will trying to move fluid out of the capillaries. Then is the interstitial fluid colloid osmotic pressure, which is trying to move fluid outward, and it is 8 millimeter, and plasma colloid osmotic pressure is the pressure that is tending to keep the fluid inside. So filtration coefficient is the net filtration of the entire body and minus kidneys, and for the entire body it is 2 ml per minute. So it's a net filtration rate per minute per millimeter of mercury pressure in the whole body. This is the capillary filtration coefficient. So its value is 6.67 ml per minute per millimeter of mercury pressure. So it differs in different tissues of the body. It's very small in the brain and the muscles. It's relatively larger in the subcutaneous tissues and the intestine, and it is very high in cases of liver and the kidneys. So if the capillary pressure increases, that will cause a condition which is known as edema. So this edema is the collection of fluid in the interstitial space, and if the capillary hydrostatic pressure is more increases by 20 millimeter of mercury above its normal value, then it will result in 68 times more filtration into the interstitial space, which cannot be handled by the normal lymphatic system. So that will lead to the formation of edema. So if this capillary pressure or capillary filtration coefficient is decreased, then there is absorption of fluid into the capillaries, and that happens in cases of hypotension and shock.